Wrestling Roundup on FreeFM, ArrowFM, and NPR. As always, I'm Grady, and live on Skype we got Josh.
Hey.
Let's just start off with the big title change this week. NXT, we don't often start with it, but we got ourselves a brand new North American champion.
And it's not who we expected it to be. Because the number one contender was Mustafa Ali, so when I saw that, I thought, well, that just means that they had the match early and Ali's the champion. No, it's Dominik Mysterio.
Yep, more gold for the Judgment Day.
No, not exactly how we expected them to get more gold, but I'll take it.
Yeah, they're holding, the Women's World Championship, the NXT North American Championship, and the Money in the Bank briefcase. It's quite a collection.
Yep, and there's going to be another match between Rollins and Balor, which could score them the World Championship.
That'd be quite a haul.
I saw some people questioning it because when Solo got called up, he had to drop the title. But when I was seeing those questions, I'm like, well, the reason they had to drop it was because technically they made him drop it because he wasn't supposed to be in the match he won the title in the first place.
Yeah.
So that's why he had to drop the title. I'm interested in seeing how they play this off, with Dominik obviously being a main roster person. But yeah, this is just more power for the Judgment Day. It also does bring many questions about what are they doing with Mustafa Ali. Is it going to be Ali versus Mysterio at Great American Bash? Or is it going to be a triple threat? The one thing is that Lee had an amazing run as the North American champion. Can't fault him for that. And he's not hurt by this because it took the Judgment Day to beat him. So it was a dirty win for Dirty Dominik.
It makes a lot of sense, right? Like, coming off of this, I'm like, well, it's good things for Judgment Day because they get themselves a little bit more gold to carry around. It's good things for NXT because they continue that crossover with the Judgment Day, getting some name recognition stars coming on over to NXT. It's good for Wes Lee. He's finally not locked up with that North American Championship and can go out and have himself some matches and maybe go after the A champion with the A championship. And yeah, it just opens up a bunch of possibilities. We were already saying it was time for a North American Championship title change, and I'm not mad. I'm quite happy. I think this is a good direction to go with the title. You're right in terms of how's it going to play out. Are we going to see Judgment Day or at least Dominik and Rhea coming to NXT every week? Are they just going to show up for the specials? A little bit of a cloud around exactly what the future's going to hold, but doesn't really matter. It's good exposure for JD and NXT.
Yeah, and also it could end up being a good exposure for Wes Lee because he could end up coming to Raw to do something with Dominik on Raw. And that gets him exposed to the masses that wouldn't normally have seen him.
Yeah, it's all positives all around, except for Ali, as you mentioned. And it also adds fuel to that fire that we've been talking about with Finn Balor being, the only one without gold. And potentially being seen as the failure of the Judgment Day. Now Dominik's got himself some gold. Rhea's got hers. Priest has his briefcase. Bella really is the lone man here, the odd one out, and it might be make it or break it at SummerSlam.
Could very well be. So yeah, it does make that match even more interesting, the rematch, because of all the situation we've been talking about for the last few weeks, between potential friction in the Judgment Day. What if Balor wins the title, but then is immediately cashed in on? And that is how they break up Finn Balor from the Judgment Day, is because then he wins the title, has his moment, but it's immediately ripped out of his hands. Much in the same way the Universal title was. Which I love how they keep going back to that with Balor because it is real.
Mm-hmm.
Balor was set up to be one of the top guys in the company in 2016. He beat Roman Reigns cleanly in the middle of the ring on his way to that match with Seth. And he beat Seth, who was at the time, much as he is now, the 1A of the company. And he got injured and had to immediately drop the title. And he's not been back to that level since. And you can tell it bothers him.
Yeah, I think that's the best storytelling elements, right? Of those that do have a bit of a line into that realism side of things. And yeah, there's so many different routes to go with the Judgment Day. You know, does Finn win and we just continue building the little bit of the friction between him and Priest? Does Finn lose? We kick him out. As you say, does Priest cash in? Does Priest cash in without a Finn win? Does Priest cash in with a Finn win? Do we replace him? Do we stay as a 3-person group? Do we just add somebody else before we kick out Finn? There's so many different bits and bobs and moving pieces with the Judgment Day, and we've sat here and we've sung their praises for quite a while. And just as the Bloodline storyline looks like it's heating up and they're going to explode, they're practically gone already as it is, but we're still seeing the remnants of that fallout. It really leaves Judgment Day as being that top stable role now that Roman's crew has crumbled.
Yeah. Another thing I want to point out. You know how for the last couple years, Seth has been grandiose and over the top with his character.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime he has dropped that sort of grandioseness to his character, that's when he shows that he takes the person he's facing as a serious threat.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it was Dominik to some degree, Riddle, and now Balor. He's not the jovial Seth Rollins right now. He's taking Finn Balor and the Judgment Day seriously.
Yeah.
So I think that's an important thing to note about his character, is that anytime that he steps away from the joking, over-the-top Seth, that's when he's like, this demands my attention. This is somebody worthy of me being serious.
Yeah, and it's interesting because if you think about the Judgment Day, you know, when they were still trying to get their legs underneath them and through that middle portion, there was a lot of questions and a lot of doubts about the group around, you know, were they just going to be a comedy group that went nowhere? And now here they are sitting on the top of Raw, sitting on the top of the women's divisions, challenging for the world championships over and over, and Seth taking them seriously, all the members seriously, Rhea seemingly unstoppable in her women's division, dominating a couple of brands now if you count NXT, and it's a really strong position from, you know, where they could have gone had a few different decisions gone different ways.
The key decision was adding Dominik.
Yeah.
Everything changed for the Judgment Day the moment Dominik Mysterio turned heel and joined them. Up until that, it was just repetitive matches with Edge and Ray every single month for a year that just didn't benefit the Judgment Day.
Mm-hmm. And now look where they are.
Yeah. Now they have 2 members with gold, one with the potential of gold, and one that is the default leader, but we don't know for sure what his direction is.
Well, that was our 10-minute spiel on the Judgment Day. You know what? I'll go into the entrance theme. We're going to continue the Judgment Day hype over on this end of things, because our entrance theme this week is Dirty Dominik Mysterio, our brand new NXT North American Champion. And you're back for Wrestling Roundup on FreeFM, ArrowFM, and NPR. I'm Grady. He's Josh. Really, we're talking about the build-up towards SummerSlam. That is the key with a lot of these storylines that are popping off. But one thing we talked about last week as a potential to happen decided to happen. So Chelsea Green, Sonya Deville, brand new WWE Women's Tag Team Champions.
Yeah. Was a little surprising, but I think it was also not, because we've seen the wave that Green and Deville have been going on the last few months, especially as the popularity of the caring character of Chelsea Green has gotten.
Mm-hmm.
And we've also pretty much been saying, we've been seeing rumors of Raquel Rodriguez versus, or Gonzalez, whatever they want to call her, because I've heard rumors of her going back to her original name, versus Rhea Ripley at SummerSlam. And been thinking, well, how's this going to work with Morgan and Rodriguez being the tag title champions? Well, we don't have to worry about that anymore.
Yeah, they decided to solve it for us, and switch the titles on over. It's a little sad that it's another hot potato. With these titles, we've had quite a few of them, I'd say, throughout the entirety of the championships run. But yeah, I'm not mad about Green and Deville taking the titles. They've worked hard, both individually and as a team, shown that they can be entertaining, which is the most important thing. And yeah, as you said, Raquel looks like she's heading on towards a Rhea match at SummerSlam, and Liv Morgan might just end up floating around for a little bit.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I really thought about with this whole thing was that, as you said, they have done hot potato with the title, but I kind of think that was by design, simply because of the injury to Liv.
Mm-hmm.
I think we still get here without that injury. We just don't have the title reign for that was in between it with Rousey and
Baszler.
And Baszler. I don't think they get the titles.
Yeah, it is a hard one. Obviously, injuries do derail a lot of things, and I feel like it was two different things. It was an injury derailed us, so we moved to a different plan, and then hearing that the injury wasn't as bad as people had suspected, and so we could change it back up a little bit and have Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez come back on into the tag scene and finish out that storyline. It worked out quite well. I think the last, I don't even know how long, 3-4 months have been a little rough. You think as well at the former NXT Women's Tag Team Champions. They came up. They had, I think, one match on Raw, lost a unification match to Rousey and Baszler, pretty convincingly, and now they're just not even around again. And so I don't know if we really had plans for that team, or if we just called them up for the sake of unifying the titles. They're kind of the only low light for me in that women's tag team division, is just what happened surrounding that. We could have waited. We could have merged them now, even. I don't know. But the merge had to happen, and injuries forced the title changes to happen in the way that they happened as well.
Yeah. And I love pretty much everything about the team of Deville and Chelsea.
Mm-hmm.
I love the character of Chelsea Green. I love Sonya Deville, and I love how they're treating her as a way, as being more than just a bodyguard, a companion to the Karen that is she's getting to shine through this as well.
Yeah.
I think eventually they will drop the title to some other team. We don't know what team it'll be. And then they'll break up. But I could see both of them being elevated to mid-card, upper mid-card levels, because and potentially facing off for a world title on each brand or something eventually.
Mm-hmm.
And it making sense. Obviously, there's Charlotte, There's the then there's a chasm, the 4 horsewomen and Bianca Belair that's left in the WWE. Obviously, one is off in Japan. And then there's everybody else in like another chasm. I could see them being bumped up to almost the level of the 4 horsewomen and Bianca through this tag team and the breakup and stuff.
Yeah, the women's divisions are pretty... It's almost contrasty, right? Because you look at the Raw one with Rhea kind of just sitting on her own at the moment. Raquel obviously trying to get built up to that. But then you look at SmackDown and you got, Asuka with the title, Bianca on her heels, Charlotte demanding an opportunity, IYO Sky with the briefcase, Bayley floating around. SmackDown really be thriving on that side of things at the moment. And I don't know how often we're going to have shake-ups or drafts or bits and bobs to throw superstars around, but Raw does have a pretty big void, and, a void means opportunities.
Yep. Yeah, it definitely means opportunities, especially if, say, by WrestleMania we lose Ronda Rousey, which is very possible, because there are rumors that her contract ends at WrestleMania. And that she might be considering going back to UFC afterwards. So it's very possible. Shayna Baszler obviously would then slot in somewhere towards the top of the division.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, there's not a lot in the cupboard after that. Which is why having Liv around, floating around is not a bad thing.
Yeah,
because that's somebody that can easily face off against Rhea after Raquel is done with her, and then you would have Deville and
Green
and Chelsea Green to potential for whoever ends up being the person that beats Rhea. Obviously, you're not going to have two heels facing off against each other, but there's definitely possibilities there. You just have to do more to build it to them instead of the way SmackDown is that everybody's already established, pretty much.
Yeah.
And then there's IYO Sky, who's being established because she has the briefcase and hasn't cashed it in yet.
Well, to be fair, she did try this past week on SmackDown. We had Bianca Belair versus Asuka. It got a little messy. Bayley, Sky, Charlotte all ringside. And, IYO Sky had it set up, ready for the moonsault. Had Bayley try and cash it in, and wham bam, Bayley gets taken out by the mist and ruins IYO's opportunity.
Yeah.
Let's all blame Bayley.
Yeah, that'll be a part of it. Bayley being slow on the cash in and stuff. Yeah, I do think eventually IYO Sky will be women's champion. It's just a matter of when, not if. And I think we do have to get past Bayley first. So I think it's going to be a couple months before she cashes in, which is still saying something for the women's briefcase. But I do think there'll be a couple matches between Bayley and IYO Sky before IYO finally gets gold.
Yeah, I think that's the case, right? Because IYO's still got Bayley, Bianca, Asuka, and Charlotte still have each other. It does feel like we just gotta, finish the plate of food that you're eating now before you go get yourself a new one. And it's cool seeing these feuds intertwine, but it is just a setup for Sky versus Bayley, which should be a great match between them. And then, bada bing, bada boom, it'll be time for Sky to capture the big one, which I am excited about. We're most of the way through the show. That one breezed by. What piece to talk about? Let's talk about the Viking rules match. We don't see those often. A nice little sub-feud that we've had on Raw building throughout the past few weeks. Alpha Academy picking up Maxine from Maximum Male Models, training her, rather than Otis going over to to MMM. We ended up pulling Maxine over to us and went up against the Viking Raiders, including Valhalla. And it's been a neat little feud between them, but ultimately, I guess the Viking Raiders managing to overcome the Alpha Academy and their new trainee.
Yeah, and you know what? Maxine Debris is getting over.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you. This is what Lana should have been when she turned face. But unfortunately, Lana didn't have the ability to be a face. I'm all for it. I'm all for this. This whole group is full of people I absolutely adore. Chad Gable is probably the best all-around wrestler in the company.
Agreed.
Otis is one of the best entertaining characters, regardless of what they have him do.
Agreed.
And Backseat is just fitting it perfectly with them, surprisingly.
Yeah, the fit was shocking, you know. But I think that speaks volumes for Maxine's ability to take a character and go different, right? Like this character she's playing now with the Alpha Academy is vastly different to the one she was playing with leading the models, and she's thriving where she is. It probably helps, you know, that you're hanging around, as you say, someone as talented as Chad Gable and someone as entertaining as Otis. It's a great combination to be from and some great learning trees to sit under.
And as she gets better in the ring, that's another person that can face off against Rhea Ripley. and it somewhat makes sense.
More bolstering our Raw Women's division.
Yeah. So the Viking Raiders are still one of those tag teams where it's like, this is a team that I could see easily being the team to conquer our current tag team champions. They've just been on the sidelines for a while with this feud. Now that it seems to be this is the end of the feud, potentially, we could start seeing them start approaching Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn.
Yeah, the Viking Raiders are a team that no matter what they're doing, no matter how they're booked at the time, could always be slotted into a tag team championship match tomorrow and be a credible threat. They're always around the scene. They're always portrayed as, you know, super strong guys with this amazing chemistry. Valhalla adds to the piece and gives them an extra person to play around with, different ways to win matches. They've had quite a few feuds that aren't over the titles, which, you know, in the WWE tag team scene is rare. But they've managed to have them. They had the amazing stuff with the Street Profits, and yeah, as you say, Gold could be in their future tomorrow. I wouldn't be shocked. Gold could be in their future in 6 months, and I wouldn't be shocked. It all just depends on the Kevin Owens Sami Zayn storyline and how long we're going to need for that one to play out.
Yeah. And speaking of the Street Profits, something happened that we need to talk about real quick.
That's true. We only got a couple minutes, so shoot.
Something we've been calling for months seems to be now on the horizon of potential, because we had Bobby Lashley meet up with the Street Profits and get in a limo, and it appeared they were talking with a fourth person.
Sorry, Shelton and Cedric.
Yeah. Could we be getting a reform and improved Hurt Business?
Yeah. Well, we've been talking about different formations of the Hurt Business. We've been talking about the Street Profits going heel. It's about time.
It would be definitely something different. It would make it easier for them to do anything with both Bianca and Montez. Yeah, Montez as a power couple if they're both heels. And it's just the Hurt Business was something that should have gone longer than it did.
Mm-hmm.
So bringing it back, I'm fine with bringing it back with the arguably the best tag team that's not the Usos. Would be huge for them, because that's another tag team that could potentially, if you turn them heel, face off and beat Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. And it makes sense.
Yeah.
So it will, though, again, it will be something that will be sad that we never got the Bloodline versus the Hurt Business. So I think that would have been a money feud.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we know Lashley, Roman, we know Usos, Street Profits. Pretty solid matchups, for sure. Alright, well, we'll have to see what happens in the Street Profits' future. I'm sure this week we will learn more and more, but we are out of time. It's been great talking to you.
Bye-bye.
You can visit our Facebook page, facebook.com/wrestling R&D Upper, our Twitter page, twitter.com/wrestling R&D Upper, our YouTube page, youtube.com/wrestling RND Up, and we will see you next week.